If you can find your seat and silence your cell phones, we will start the program in a minute or two. Hello, and welcome to the 14th Women's Fund Educational Forum. Yeah. According to American Express, last year American women started 1,200 businesses a day. 9.1 million women own businesses in the U.S., generating $14 trillion annually in revenue. Women-owned businesses have created more than 274,000 jobs since 2007. Entrepreneurship, it really is the new woman's movement. How many, if you are a women business owner, would you please stand? Wow. Thank you. You know, I look out here at the audience at you who are already women business owners and the rest of you who aspire to be women business owners, and I think to myself, watch out, world. Pretty amazing. I'm going to take a minute or two before we begin the program to tell you a little bit about the Women's Fund in case you are not familiar with us. We just celebrated our 5th birthday, and the Women's Fund was formed as a new venture in collective giving. The idea being that individually we can each give a little bit to our favorite charity, but oh my, what can we do if we pool it all together? Pool it together to address the persistent and oftentimes generational challenges of poverty and underachievement that seem to plague women in our area. In those 5 years, we have grown our membership to 332. Women and men, I might add. Research shows, in our hearts we know this, if you help a woman, you help her whole family. And the guys who are our members, they get that, and we're happy to have them. We have a 3-pronged strategy at the Women's Fund. It's education, grant making, and endowment building. In the 5 years that we've been in existence, we have awarded grants of $130,000 to nonprofit organizations, local nonprofit organizations that help women and their families. We supported programs that have fixed the teeth of women who couldn't even go for a job interview because they were so embarrassed and insecure. They have jobs now. We have supported an organization that helps women that are stuck in those dead-end motels. We all drive by them on Highway 273. They're there with their children. They can't get out. The primary reason they can't get out is because they don't have the money to pay their first month's rent, their security deposit, the utility deposits, all of that. We support an organization that loans those funds to those women, gets them into their own place, and then they pay it back, and then that revolving loan is used to help another woman. So we're really proud of that organization. And one of our most recent grants was awarded to Girls Inc. And Girls Inc. is providing financial literacy to middle school girls and young high school women and teaching them the best management practices of money management. I mean, that's a hand up, not a handout, and that's the best way you can beat poverty. So we're very proud of those steps that we've taken. Thanks. This is our 14th free educational forum. We organize, research, and host them. We've touched upon all the difficult subjects that we really don't want to look at. Teen pregnancy, you know the grim statistics, teen pregnancy, domestic violence, the fact that our kids aren't going on to higher education. So we'll continue to have these forums. They're very popular, and we love the turnout we're seeing today. We have given $130,000 in grants to area nonprofits, and we have built an endowment of $300,000 at a time that's been called the Great Recession. And I think that really just is an indication of how our organization has been received by the community, and we're really grateful for that. I want to thank U.S. Bank, who is today's event sponsor. They have been with us through the beginning, and we are just grateful for everything they've done for us. And we'll now move along to the program, and we're going to start out with a little video, which I think you all will find very inspiring.
I really believe that people can tackle far more than they think they can. My name is Veronica Scott. I'm 24 years old, and I'm the CEO and founder of the Empowerment Plan here in Detroit. I think women have a really difficult time understanding how valuable they are. The idea of self-worth is very important to me because I grew up a kid of addicts, and we were kind of set up for failure. We were set up in a hole that we had to climb our way out of. I ended up getting a great scholarship to go to college, and a class ended up changing my entire life. The class assignment was designed something to fill actual needs. I did my research at homeless shelters. So the first product I created was the coat. The coat looks like a regular jacket during the day, but when you open it up, you can actually slide your feet in all the way up to your knees and Velcro it closed again to make a sleeping bag. I was talking to the homeless population in that area and getting feedback and making prototype after prototype. When I was on like prototype number 7, a woman came out of the shelter that I was in and she was yelling at me. She was full on screaming. And she said, "We don't need coats. Coats are pointless, we need jobs." And really, she was completely right. Because a coat is just a Band-Aid for a systemic issue. And what really would have the impact is hiring the population that would need them in the first place. We hire only individuals from homeless shelters, and then we train them in everything from sewing and manufacturing to employment, as well as tech and whatever they need to become more independent and to be proud of their accomplishments and be proud of themselves.
I'm happy to be working for a cause. It's no greater joy than me coming to work knowing that I can make this coat and help somebody that was in my position. So I take great pride in what I do. I really do.
You know, actually, I sat at my dinner table with my son last night and I cried because I was like, you know, last year we were just in a shelter and now this year we're in a home.
I was the only person that could create this opportunity for myself. And that's all we're trying to do, is give them the power to take control of the life that they want to lead. No matter what you've gone through, you still can do a lot with what you have.
In case I didn't mention it, my name is Michelle Godert, and I'm chairman of the Women's Fund. Also, if you're a techie and you tweet, our hashtag today is Women in Biz, so I'd like to see some activity there. Like us on Facebook, all that good stuff. And I'd like to introduce Kristen Schrader, who will be our moderator today.
Thank you, Michelle. As Michelle mentioned, we've done 13 forums before today, and I'm really proud of that. I'm one of the founding cabinet members and previous chair, and also I was chair of the education committee for this last year, and I helped out on this one. And what you really gain from the forums and what we have been inspired by is the awareness we've created in our community about really important issues. And I want to just remind, and this is such a great turnout for us today, I want to remind you, for example, in April of last year, we helped launch the No More campaign at One Safe Place. So we collaborated with the District Attorney's Office, One Safe Place, and the Department of Public Health to really create the awareness, and we wanted to do more. We said it's important to create awareness, but it's really important to launch something that will have meaning in our community for the long term. And so I'm really proud of One Safe Place and what they have accomplished since then, which is so much. I just want to give a shout out for that project. And today, you know, what we're touching on is another important issue. And we have, how we decide how our grant funds are given is we have our members, and you can join over there at the end. We have our members select the focus area. And this last year, our focus area was, where is it? Fostering economic opportunities. So that inspired us to create a forum that's connected to that topic. And what better way to do that than to talk about entrepreneurship, because it's one opportunity that women have to create jobs for themselves, economic stability for them and their families. And oftentimes, and you'll hear from our speakers today, 2 entrepreneurs and 2 women who work with entrepreneurs. And they have a lot of experience and a lot of passion. So what we find is that women-owned businesses often hire other women, and they create stability for their family, and then they help grow our communities to be better. So I want to thank you again. Today, our lunches were provided by one of our speakers, Fresh Fire Grill, and it's the first time we've sold out our lunches in 4 years, okay? So if you missed lunch today, there are flyers in the back, and their restaurant is out in Palisadro. So please enjoy. Also, I want to just remind you that joining the Women's Fund also supports forums like these. And I really appreciate the great turnout. And I'm going to introduce our first speaker for today, and that is Anna Vietti. Anna is the owner of Viva La Photo in Reading and U Booth Photo Booth in Napa. The open-air photo services provide photography at weddings and other events. She is the former Crisis Hotline volunteer coordinator with One Safe Place.
Thank you, Kristen. So I tend to ramble on, and then I go back and forth with my presentation, so I wrote everything down. So bear with me. My name is Anna Vietti, and I was born and raised right here in Redding, California by my parents, who are both educators. I spent a lot of time with my father, as I have always been a daddy's girl. My dad taught me a lot growing up about life, pursuing my dreams, and going after everything that I want in my life. His preaching of wisdom, as we used to tease him about when we were kids, really stuck with me through many of the tough times in my life. Believe it or not, I've been through my share. My parents worked hard together to give me and my siblings dance lessons, singing lessons, swim team, and every sport that you can think of. Not to forget all of the money that they spent on gas taxiing us to practice lessons and recitals. After my parents got a divorce, when I was 12, I found myself in a lot of pain, but I didn't know how to deal with it. Because of the split, financial difficulties from both parents transitioning into single parenthood took away a lot of these amenities that I had grown so comfortable with. I chose to deal with the pain through rebellion and partying. I started hanging out with the wrong crowd and making poor choices, seemingly giving up on my future. After having a one-night stand with a man, I found myself pregnant with my first son. Because of my lifestyle at the time, I chose to keep my son and raise him. To this day, I am very thankful for him because I believe that he saved my life. Wanting to do the right thing, I married his father without truly knowing him. He was in the military at the time and much older than me, and I moved away with him. And over the next 7.5 years of our marriage, I gave birth to 3 more beautiful boys. And we moved all over the world. Yes, that's right. I am a mother of 4 boys. They are my rock and my greatest accomplishment. Their father was very emotionally and verbally abusive, which led to greater abuse towards the end of our marriage. He was extremely controlling and manipulative, and as I grew stronger and built boundaries for myself, we ended up with a 2-year-long, very intense divorce. filled with stalking and constant harassment of not only me and my children, but my entire family. I moved home to Reading halfway through our divorce to get away from his erratic behavior and to be closer to my family, who welcomed me with open arms. The transition of being a stay-at-home mom in a household income of $65,000 a year living in Oklahoma at the time, where the cost of living is minimal, we found ourselves living at my mother's house here in Reading, living off of less than $17,000 a year. That was our normal budget back then just for food. And now we had to learn how to make ends meet. I tried everything from part-time work to full-time work and going to school, but nothing ever seemed to get me ahead of the game. When I worked, I spent more money on gas to get to and from work than was worth the job. In some of these jobs, I found that I was actually paying to go to work. Because as I made an income, any government assistance that I received went down. It was very discouraging. In 2012, I quit a part-time job that I had to stay focused on my studies and lived off of financial aid, government assistance, and student loans. I was tired and exhausted and at my wit's end. I wanted to be able to provide a security for my children, but without sacrificing my being a good mother and the time that I have with them. I found myself crying one day, literally on my knees, bawling. And I prayed out to God specifically for what I wanted. I said, I'll never forget it, I need a job, but it's going to have to be something where I work only a few hours a week and I make like $150 an hour. It's the dream, right? I had no idea that only a week later I would actually find myself with that exact answer. I went to my cousin's wedding down in the Bay Area. This cousin actually grew up in Chicago, and on a whim, the previous summer, her and her husband moved to San Francisco. I was happy that they decided to have their wedding here on the West Coast, because it brought all of my family from Chicago here to California. There would have been no financial means for me to buy a ticket to go to Illinois for the wedding. There was a photo booth at her wedding, and it was pumping out photos all night long, thanks to yours truly. I felt so nostalgic having these photos because I never get to see this side of my family. But now I have pictures with all of them to keep forever. On my way home from the wedding, driving up I-5, I got the idea that I could open a photo booth business up here in Reading. So I did. I felt at this point I had nothing to lose. I pitched the idea to my mom, and she helped me co-sign. She helped co-sign with me to lease the equipment. The wedding just happened to take place on my twins' 7th birthday, May 12th of 2012, and La Booth, that's the name that I gave my photo booth, arrived at my doorstep exactly a month and a half later. In the first week of July, I hit the ground running. Because my business markets itself, and I have learned the value of marketing and connection, I feel that this is the perfect business for me. This doesn't mean that I haven't come across obstacles, because just like anything in life, we hit hurdles and have to climb mountains. I am grateful for all that I have learned and to my community for their support. Viva La Photo hasn't just been a business where I've been able to get paid to party, but it's also given me a sense of fulfillment and purpose. When I first opened up my business, I had no idea that I would be watching doctors step up to my prop table, very prestigiously, I might add, after working 70+ hours a week, to see them only moments later wearing a clown nose, a wig, and a boa in a state of child wonderment and play. I get to bring that experience to people, and it's truly an honor. At the second wedding I ever did, I pumped out hundreds of photos, only to find the heartbreaking news that the groom had passed away 2 months later. His bride called me in tears, thanking me for all of the wonderful photos she had now of her wedding day. Last month, a mother of a 3-year-old child with severe brain damage messaged me for me to set up the photo booth at her daughter's 4th birthday. The doctor had told her daughter she maybe only had 1 year to live, but it turned out to only be 2 weeks. She died on the 1st of this year and her mother messaged me just a couple of weeks ago thanking me for all of the wonderful photos she had now of her daughter and all of her family and friends. Last year, One Safe Place and the Women's Fund launched the No More campaign right here in this room. And they hired me, my photo booth, and we used it to give everyone a chance to use their voice to write down why they say no more to family violence. This campaign was near and dear to my heart because of my own survival of domestic violence. Viva La Photo has produced a profit each year since its opening and continues to grow in numbers. With that said, the photo booth concept is still in its infant stage and is just now starting to catch on. I haven't yet been able to fully count on the profit from my business to sustain a living wage for me and my 4 children. I took yet another risk of quitting a full-time job with One Safe Place this past summer to purchase another photo booth business down in the Bay Area called U-Booth. And I've already set up 3 events down there and have another one coming up on February 7th. 2 of my past events were for Google and YouTube. I have also decided to offer business consulting to people who are interested in starting their own business and looking for someone to coach them and cheer them on. So, growth and expansion are taking place. I am not done dreaming either. I have many goals in the future and the list keeps piling up. Viva La Photo and being an entrepreneur, anyway, has given me this sense of empowerment. I feel like I can truly do anything I set my mind to, as my dad always told me when I was a little girl. I have come a long way, and I'm excited for all that is to come. I invite you all to take one of my cards, as well as I have some printouts. I don't have enough for everyone. So if you have a friend, maybe you can make copies. But I have some printouts of all the services that Viva La Photo offers, along with the rates and everything. Please go like my Facebook page, check out the website, and feel free to come introduce yourself to me afterwards. I'd be happy to meet you. I'd like to say thank you to Kristen Schrader and Sue Ralston for this opportunity, as well as everybody at the Women's Fund. And it has been an honor to be included, and I thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Anna. Very inspiring. And as well, I know the other speakers will be too. Our next speaker is Hope Seth. She's Director of Entrepreneurial Development for the Economic Development Corporation of Shasta County here in Redding. She works to connect entrepreneurs to mentors, training, investors, and incubator space needed to develop a strong business. Welcome, Hope.
Thank you. I just want to start out by saying thank you so much to the Women's Fund. I've come from a few different cities, and I've never seen something like this here, and it's such a great asset to the city, and it's something to be very proud of. So thank you so much for choosing this topic, all of the members that chose this topic this year as our emphasis. Thank you so much, and I'm proud to be able to talk to you guys a little bit about entrepreneurship and how we can achieve that. So, actually, let me get this presentation up. All right, so as I said, I do this all the time. Not really. Okay. So my name is Hope. I am Director of Entrepreneur at the Shasta EDC. And I'm not going to actually share my journey of entrepreneurship today because we have such inspiring stories already. However, I too, up until June of last year, was a business owner. We sold our business back in Tennessee. I had actually moved here a year prior to take on this role, but we were kind of working out of two states, and we just sold that. And so I'm no longer a business owner, but it's near and dear to my heart, and I'm really look forward to encouraging women to pursue that dream. So we have never lived in a time of history where women have so much opportunity. The freedom that we have gained, the opportunities that we have, and now even access to markets through technology has opened up these opportunities like never before. Women are creating jobs, and and I want to share with you a few of the faces that have inspired me a little bit along the way. This is Marquita Jenkins, and she's with Tennessee Diabetes and Healthy Living Solutions. I met Marquita in my former role, and she was looking to start a business. She worked in the healthcare industry with diabetes patients, and she saw firsthand how the emergency rooms were over how much expenses they incurred from repeat visits to the ER from diabetes patients. And because she had worked in this field, she created this program that in the first year saved the hospitals $1 million of expenses. Well, then she thought maybe she could be onto something, right? She's like, oh, maybe I could do this a few times. So she came to us looking for help, and how could I take what I've created and actually turn it into a business opportunity? This is Jessie and Michelle. This is a great story. Michelle had just been laid off from her job. Her house burnt down right after that. Jessie was an attorney who was just recovering from stage 3 breast cancer. They met, they became friends, and they decided to go into business together. They started a business called Industrial Packaging, TSS, and if you know the nylon threads that go through the dog food, the cat food, you know those nylon threads that keep it closed? Well, they manufacture that. And that actually was the industry that that Michelle was part of, but she found a way to improve on it, and they decided to go into business. This is Marcy Harris. Marcy was the daughter of a mayor, so she knew a little bit about the politics of a community. Her co-founder was in Washington, D.C., in the government there, and they realized that there was a big problem in getting the voice of the people to be heard on legislative issues actually into Congress. So they created a site called popvox.com that actually creates a way-in for people to weigh in on issues and have it be fed right into the floor of Congress. So these women, they inspire me because they come from all different ages, all different backgrounds, all different experiences. But there was one thing besides being a woman that they had in common, and that's that they actually looked at a problem not just from a sense of, oh, I acknowledge that there's a problem, somebody else should do something about this, but they said, I think I can be part of this solution. I can create it. And that is the heart of entrepreneurship. It's solving problems that we face. We saw that in the first video. We saw that here, another opportunity. On the flip side of problems are opportunity. So one of the pictures that people use when they talk about a new idea is it's kind of like you're pregnant with an idea. You're pregnant with a promise. And how many of you know that the ideas are easy? It's actually the growing and giving birth to them that can be challenging. And there's challenges that all entrepreneurs face. There's some that are specifically more applicable to women, though, and I'll show a little bit about that. So the lack of business knowledge, basic business skills, basic building blocks, what goes into making a business planning, market research, determining who your customer is going to be. Those are basic kind of building blocks of a business. And without the understanding and without the knowledge of those, what I've seen that people have prematurely started businesses. They've prematurely went out and leased space and gathered inventory and put an open sign, and then a year later they're realizing, I don't have any customer. They skipped over some really important steps. And so having a foundation of business knowledge is really important. Lack of early mentoring relationships. As women, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about mentoring and some of those resources, but mentoring relationships are so important because they give you context for the knowledge that you have. And where I've seen that has a negative impact on businesses is that sometimes when you don't know, you go into something with unrealistic expectations, unrealistic timelines. You didn't realize that, it would take 6 to 8 months of marketing before you could convert those people into your customers. That's something that experience, a voice of experience, would have given you that feedback on. And so that's a challenge. Undercapitalized. We all know it takes money to open a business and to run a business. Sometimes that's smaller, sometimes that's greater. But one challenge that any entrepreneur, it's really not limited to men, but one challenge that we tend to face more is being undercapitalized. And what happens with that is that you get businesses that get, most businesses that will close within a year to 2 years after opening, and it was due to they didn't have enough reserves set aside at the beginning. And work and family balance. This can be a challenge for women. This is where I think, being one, I have 3 children, and having been a business owner, this is a big challenge because you do feel, and even though my husband works and with us at home and we share those responsibilities, you still carry this weight of responsibility in your heart that you have to do it all. And what happens when you're in that mode of trying to manage and juggle everything is that you don't develop the networks. You don't develop the community support relationships because they take time. You don't take the time to do that. And what happens is that you just don't find the support when you need it. So if those are the challenges, then we can come up with the resources to address those. We can come up with the resources to help women. So I want to first talk about, and I'm going to be kind of specific on, here's some of these resources that we have here in Reading and the Shasta area. Knowledge and training, like I said, writing a business plan, market research, those are all things that are so vital to women understanding and going into business. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't know any of that when I went to business, so as much as I say that, but it can avoid a lot of costly mistakes. It can avoid a lot of time wasted if you get some of that down. So where do we have, what kind of knowledge and training resources do we have here in Reading and Shasta? Well, we have the workshops and classes. Okay, so that's one thing. So Working Strategies for Women was created through the United Way and offered workshops and classes for women who are looking to start their own business. The Chamber from time to time will have workshops or a class that addresses a need of a small business owner. Shasta College, they offer business and entrepreneur classes. So these are places you can go. The EDC, where I work with, so startups and entrepreneurs, you'll hear that word kind of probably interchangeably. Have you ever heard of a startup? A startup, and where I work specifically, my particular area, is startups that have a technology or a product that can grow quickly, that may have a national market, an international market. So that's where we focus our resources at. So for instance, next week, I have a Silicon Valley expert coming in who's going to be talking to startup founders on customer-oriented product strategy. It's a mouthful. But how do you make sure that your product is actually meeting the need of a customer? How do you know that it's not just, you've made it all nice and pretty and you think it's everything they want, but how do you really know if it's what they want? So he's going to be talking, and we do have a little extra space, so if you're interested, find me afterwards, and we'd love to invite you to come to that. All right, so mentoring. Mentoring, I would not be standing here today if I didn't have mentors. Mentoring is so important. And I want to talk to you about 3 different types of mentors because I think sometimes we don't understand the differences that there could be. One is a functional mentor and a consultant, and that's going to be someone who's going to have a specific knowledge in a particular area of expertise that can help you with a very specific issue. Okay? Relational. These are probably more your typical, when you think of a mentor, they may be like a relational a mentor. They're going to be like a coach. They're going to cheer you on. They're going to go ahead and extend their networks to you. They're going to open those up. They're going to share resources. They may even invest in your company if they really see the potential in that. But those take longer. Those take longer to develop. And you have to really get into the places. And I'll tell you where I have found some of my mentors. Some of my mentors have come from my workplace. I learned, I watched and I learned how my my bosses were, and I was mentored by them. Another place comes from committees and boards that you may sit on in the community. Some of my best mentors I've met through sitting on a committee or sitting on a board with them. And then the other one is maybe through a church. If you go to a church, there's businessmen and women who may want to give back and mentor you. And last but virtual mentors, we hardly ever think of that, but if you have someone that you follow online and they're successful and it's in an industry or something that you're going for, follow them. Follow them, read their books, listen to their podcasts. You can be mentored. That's another form of mentoring. Capital. So capital is, let me just tell you real quickly some resources that we have. Many times you think of loans. The truth is most small businesses are actually, when they're first created, they're created through your own savings. That's usually how they're created because loans are hard to get when you're first starting up. But if you are purchasing a business, if you can have collateral for it and experience, sometimes you can get a loan. And here in Reading, this Superior California Economic Development has resources for SBA loans. And micro enterprise loans. SAGE, angel funding, the EDC a couple years ago decided we're going to put together funding for startups. And these are startups that have high growth potential, they have innovative, they're creative in that innovation in the marketplace, and they have, you can pitch to them and then they have resources to invest in those companies. And don't forget, if you're first starting out, Kickstarter and crowdfunding resources, that's actually a really legitimate way to raise funding. You leverage the networks of your family and your friends. And finally, and I think honestly this is the most important next to mentoring that you can have, is a supportive community. And it does take time to develop, but that's where collaboration happens. That's where you encourage each other. That's where you celebrate success and failure, because you have them when you're starting a business or when you own one. There are failures, and you need someone to say, you know what, keep going. And that community is so important. The EDC, we do beer and bites. That's how we form community, is we have every 6 weeks beer and bites, which brings together entrepreneurs, investors, and mentors all together. We talk about what's happening in the community, and that's how we do that. And finally, I just kind of want to leave you with an opportunity I think that's really been on my mind recently, and that's that in the next decade, there's going to be $10 trillion of wealth transfer from one generation to the next. 1 in 3 businesses are owned by a baby boomer 65 years or older. Second generation, most of them are not interested in carrying on those businesses. That's actually how we got into business. They wanted to exit their business, and they asked us if we would come and take over. And I think that's an opportunity to consider, that there's going to be businesses available, and maybe to begin to prepare and position yourself if that's something that you're interested in doing. And finally, whether you have a business already or you want to start one, you can do it. You really can. It's not complicated. There's lots of moving parts to it, yes, but it's not complicated. And if you look around, there is a room full of women here who have experience, who have resources, and who want to see you succeed. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Bev. Did I get that right? Thank you, Hope. As you hear, and I think we can all attest that a lot of the things that Hope said are really, we can agree with her on that we can do it. What we've seen, what you're going to hear today are 2 examples. And I think you'll be sitting here thinking, if you're interested in becoming an entrepreneur, you might be sitting right here today thinking of the ideas that you might have going forward on what you can do based on what you hear today. And also what I'm hoping that we are helping you do is helping you see in this community that what resources there are available. You're going to learn from, we're going to hear from one more entrepreneur, Faye, and then we're going to hear from Nancy. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to be thinking maybe outside the box, and also know that we're going to hear more about resources available to you. So next we have Faye Hall, and she is the founder of Reading Business's Code It Bootcamp, offering website design, app development, and other technology training, and Build It, providing children's session on animation, robotics, and coding. She came to the United States from China as a student and has been in the high-tech industry for more than 20 years. She was eBay's first networking engineer. Welcome.
My name is Fei Hao. I born and raised in China and in the extreme poverty. So it was a time when eggs and cooking oil and cloth were all rationed. So we eat one chicken a year on Chinese New Year. So growing up there, when I was 6 years old, I survived one of the second largest earthquake in modern history, where 250,000 people died. But as a child, actually, I had a fond memory of living in the tent after the earthquake. Don't remember, but my aunt told me she rescued me out of the buildings. And then I went to medical school in China, and I found myself in Tiananmen Square in 1989 when the tank's about to come into Beijing, and we were demonstrating. And again, I really believe it is God that I escaped unscratched. And it was a time my whole family didn't know where I was. And days later, they found me, I was safe. So, and ironically, because of that event, 2 years later, I had opportunity to come to America to study. I was going to study medicine, but I took one computer science class. My life changed because I hated medicine. I was horrible at it. Yeah, no one, when we were doing like bicep on rabbits, I always the one, my group don't want me to be involved, just hands off. So, so when I start computers, I find it easy. I don't have to remember anything. That just took me on the fast track. Within 2 years, I got a full-time job before I even graduate, getting my bachelor degree. And I ended up had a master degree in computer science and worked at Sprint at the networking center when it first launched the wireless service. And when I met my lovely husband, he convinced me to move to Santa Cruz in California, and that's where I need to find a different job, and that's where a little company, eBay, called me, say, hey, you want to join us? And they tried to convince me for stock option. I was actually really happy to make my hourly rate. So, but thank God they convinced me, and I was able. So I went and worked at eBay for like 7 years, and at that time, my daughter and my son here, my daughter was 3, my son was 5. I actually quit my job to become a full-time mother, and I was grateful I had the opportunity, but I also want to not to be like defined by my success at the time, being in the Silicon Valley at the high, the prime of my job, get really paid. I want to live to the fullness of my life. So I just, for the next few years, I enjoy being a full-time mother until I came here to Reading, and that's where I caught on this entrepreneur bug. And and I used what I tell my kids and started like Build It, which is all the cool stuff I show my kids to do, and they actually proved that they love all those things, Lego robotic, make little film, and 3D printing. So, and later on, at the same time, because my background, it was just very natural to do Code It. Like, I just thought, what a great place to even start a sort of little community that bring up the high-tech industry. Because even Silicon Valley was just because HP, the two guys in the garage, and they started with that entrepreneur spirit. So with that spirit, why can't we start at this beautiful place, not too far from the big city, right on Highway 5? So I have a really high hope for this community. I just want to say my experience truly is a journey of an entrepreneur. Like, do not let what's external defines you. With against all odds, and when I came to America, I spoke like broken English, no money, didn't even know computer science much. But there's the external thing never define you. It's whatever inside of you, that passion. When you find the things that you're passionate about, and you have a community that really supportive, when those elements together, what's inside of you will manifest outside. So don't let all these external things tell you, oh, you know, and especially like I did networking engineer. You think IT have very few women. Networking engineer, you never see a girl, you know, it's all men. So everything is just trust your own instinct, what you're passionate, what you like. I really like what I did. That's the main thing. Another thing I want to talk about is start small. So when we start building, this is a very proper place because we offer the first free class at the library. And then later on we partner with the city rec without just went ahead and ran our own place, even though we actually could afford a place. Like Hope says, just Hope says was talking about, you know, test the market, start small. So by the time we have a place at build it, we already have a great response in the community, and they already have a customer base. Same thing with Fresh Fire. We start very small with a very minimum menu. And in January, this new year, we just expanded our menu because it was tested. We had a good response. The last thing I want to talk about is you hear how it takes a village to raise a child. I want to tell you, it really takes a village to raise an entrepreneur. So it's really true. It's about in that collaborative spirit. It's about helping each other, and that's why like Women's Fund, like the people in this community, has really paved the road for us. All the founding members of the Women's Fund and the EDC, who sort of launched Build It and Code It at a Game Changer event, and the City of Rec that has to this day still a great partner in providing classes. So not be so much into, oh, I need to compete with people, but really embrace the community and find a niche that community need, rather than say, oh, this is what I'm focused on. See what the other people needed and test the market and try it out and embrace the community. So thank you.
Thank you, Faye. I also forgot to mention in all the programs, and there are also the 3x5 cards. So the way we're going to do questions today, if you've been to all the other forums, we're going to do it differently. Okay, we're doing that. It's 2015. So if you write your question on a 3x5 card, and then there'll be people on the side to collect them, and then bring them up here, and then we're going to read them from the podium. Part of that is for simplicity, and part of it is we're only using one camera. We are being videotaped. And so we don't have the ability to pan the audience. So we're adjusting to our surrounding here. So if you look in your program, or if you raise your hand and you would need a card, let us know, and we'll get you a card so you can fill them out, and then bring your questions. They'll be answered from up here. Okay, so our next speaker, and I want to thank Faye and thank her for lunch today. Our next speaker is Nancy Swift. And she's an executive director from Jefferson Economic Development Institute in Mount Shasta, called JEDI, was recently designated as a regional women's business center by the U.S. Small Business Administration, which will bring new resources to women entrepreneurs in Shasta County and other parts of the North State. I first met Nancy about 4 years ago when she is a friend of Marcia Bailey, who was a speaker at the, I think it was a 2010 Women's Fund annual event, and Marcia Bailey is a founder of Women's Economic Ventures in Santa Barbara. It's a wonderful program to help train entrepreneurs. And Marcia and Nancy are friends, and they came and joined us for a luncheon, and then we kicked off and planned working strategies for women, which, as Bev said, there are flyers in the back of the room. And last year, working strategies for women, which had been developed as a nonprofit program for training entrepreneurs, received a grant from the Women's Fund and they had programs last year offered for women. So you can see it's the village that we're helping to create and be part of. So I want to thank the Women's Fund for that. So now I'm going to have Nancy join us.
Wow, thank you so much. I am so excited to be here, and I love following the entrepreneurs because you can hear the passion in their voice, what happened in their life that brought them to certain phases to start a business. And I'm just so pleased to be here with Hope, also with the Economic Development Council, and representing the new Women's Business Center that will be a resource for you in Shasta County. This topic is near and dear to my heart. I'm an entrepreneur myself. I consider being executive director of a nonprofit for 12 years definitely entrepreneurial, and had my own businesses before that, and have had the pleasure and the honor, actually, to work with women around the world who, it's funny. There's a couple things I have on this piece of paper that Faye just exemplifies. So working with women who are busting the cultural and economic barriers just because they want a better life, they want it fair, and they have the courage to be an entrepreneur. And a Chinese woman to boot to do that. I just need to... I'm honored to ever be in the presence and also to assist women to be in that position. Entrepreneurs come in all shapes and sizes. More than half of you in the room are entrepreneurs. I hope 1/4 of the other half is an aspiring entrepreneur, so practice the word. We never know the right word to say. Are we self-employed? Do we just make some money on the side? Are we a business owner? Are we going to get Hope's money over there because we're fast growing, we have a lot of potential? How do we characterize ourselves? We come in all shapes and sizes. But entrepreneurs are not built. They're born out of necessity, and then they build the business behind it. So whether a woman is building a business to provide for her family, to provide extra income for her family, to accommodate her kids' schedules, to address her own drive for creativity and reward, to create jobs for others, to be her own boss, there are so many motivations to starting a business or becoming an entrepreneur. So I work for an organization called JEDI. The acronym came first, then the name. And we've designed services to meet the needs and the ways of operating that appeal to women, because we know that our economies, JEDI started in Siskiyou County with this Women Business Center designation. We'll be expanding into 4 counties, including Shasta County. So I often talk about rural economies. I'm not sure if you all consider your economy rural, but there's some aspects that are similar. But our economies need our women entrepreneurs. So this movement, if you will, we've called it a movement. It's pretty exciting. If you go online, everyone's calling women's entrepreneurship the new movement. Well, yes, there's renewed vigor, yet it's age-old. It's how we've managed in life, and it's how we've gotten ahead. So we want to embrace that, the good parts, move into this new reality that includes a lot of money, according to Hope. So this is good. There's some good data coming out. It was already referenced earlier today. And this report is interesting if you like statistics and you are a woman entrepreneur or an agency that serves one. It's the 2014 State of Women-Owned Businesses commissioned by American Express Open. It's the 4th year they've done it. They're going to do it on an annual basis. And it's important that now we start quantifying what's really going on, and are women getting the loans they need to start and grow? One of the things that a lot of the data is showing us is that for those of us who have been providing resources to women over the last couple of decades, wow, we're effective. And there's some secrets to it: being professional, appropriate to the needs and desires, teaching engaging content, and most importantly, designing services, whether they're training or support or financial services, that are based on women's goals and women's definition of success. So if you think about that a little bit, think about what success means to you, because it's not necessarily increasing the GDP for the nation. It's much more personal. So this new picture is acknowledging that, and we're seeing more investment flowing towards women-owned businesses. So that's an exciting time for sure. So in Shasta County, also in Siskiyou County and nationwide, women-owned businesses make up 1/3 of the total market. Now that's a significant chunk of the market when you're thinking about why aren't more services or more investment going there? Because they only employ 6% of the workforce and generate 4% of the revenue. So I look at information like that and say, okay, we're going to take that right home to our community, and that's where we're going to start and grow those businesses. We're going to get them more money, and we're going to stand behind those that have goals to expand and create more jobs. A lot of the businesses that were cited in this report, a lot of the new business growth is coming from women of color, all kinds of color. The study tracked from 1997 to 2014. In 1997, women of color were 1 in 6 business owners, and now they're 1 in 3 today. So that's significant in terms of thinking about what communities are we providing services in, how are we having culturally appropriate services in order to capitalize on their interests. Most importantly, and sort of where some of our new impetus to provide new services is coming from, is that they documented that the growing pains happen for the businesses that are under 10 employees and under $500,000 in annual revenue. Maybe 4% of the businesses owned by women in this country make more than that. So that's huge. That is too small. A Senate report found that for every dollar that a man is acquiring these days in financing, every dollar that a woman is acquiring, a man is acquiring $30. That's a financing thing. There are reasons for that, and they're not all that the banks won't give money to women or the investors won't give money to women. It's that we need to learn how to ask for it. We need to be ready. We need to be strategic as women-owned businesses. So there's that's another gap that Women's Business Center and obviously some of the services that the ADC is providing are working to address. This is why JEDI is really interested in moving in the next 10 years to serving women entrepreneurs across the North State. Our local economies need those entrepreneurs to thrive, and we need to get access to capital and relevant education out there. I'm so happy to see some friendly faces in the room. JEDI's been around for this is our 18th year. We've been operating in Siskiyou County, working with over 5,000 people and starting 2,500 businesses and jobs up there and bringing over $5 million into the county, the whole county, for small and micro business development. So we have some experience working with anybody with a dream, working with the startups, working with the fledgling businesses that have a desire to grow. Historically, about 80% of who we worked with has been low to moderate income, 72% have been women, and interestingly, with the women, 58% of them have been 55 and older. I'm interested to hear at some point whether that percentage is similar here in Shasta County, although I bet it's a little bit younger. So at JEDI, we know what a difference one business makes to one person, one family, one community. It's real and it's tangible, as we've already heard today. The services that we provide and that JEDI's provided over all these years, and some of which will become the foundation for the Women's Business Center services, include entrepreneurial training and consulting to start or develop a business. And so if we're thinking back to what Hope described as knowledge, acquiring new knowledge, those are the kinds of services that would assist you in thinking through your market, thinking through your pricing, thinking through whether or not this business is going to suit what your goals are, actually naming what your goals are, the legal components of setting up a business, and then following that on. Some of the most popular topics that we've offered have to do with leadership and pricing. So when you think about valuing your time, how many people in this room know that they value their time well, strongly? We don't do enough of it. So that's one of our most popular workshops. We also do a lot of services around access to capital, whether that's helping people get loan ready, thinking about planning for what kind of money do I need and what money will best serve my growth needs wherever I am in my business. We do financial awareness training, similar to some of the things that I've heard that the Women's Fund is funded here. We do it right at Jedi because how you manage your personal money is going to be how you manage your business finances and you're thinking about it. And so it's really critical that you have budgets and savings plans and ideas about managing money that support your success. We provide match savings accounts to launch your business, and new this year for us is moving a little bit into access to markets. So we've agreed to, there's a 15-year-old farmers market in Mount Shasta that was needing, the farmers who were running it were retiring. So we agreed to take it on in order to ensure that there's a regional market for growers and vendors in Mount Shasta. We never do any of this without partnership, and one of my hopes today in this kind of a conversation, and I'm not sure if we have some of the agencies represented in the room that support the entrepreneurs, but you don't serve an entrepreneur without partnerships, and Hope has mentioned some of them. The community college, our workforce development agencies. Jedi works a lot with cities and their community economic development committees to look at how to streamline the resources and make sure that people know that they're available and funnel entrepreneurs into them. We work with our Economic Development Council too, and the Small Business Development Centers, which you have one that's looking for a home right now here serving Shasta County. Jedi's just picked up the contract in Siskiyou County to utilize those, to provide those services. Superior California over time has done a lot of microenterprise training, and I understand that they're writing some more applications to do some additional training, and of course, as referenced earlier, they have all this SBA loan programs, as well as other money in support of business development. Crowdfunding is always a great topic, and it was mentioned earlier, and one of the partnerships that we're kind of excited about, because crowdfunding's like, so Kickstarter, if you've got a sexy idea and a great social network, then Kickstarter could be an option for you to raise capital that has no strings attached, which is great, but it's not building you any business credit, and it's also not giving the person who's giving you the money a stake in your business. So we've partnered up with Kiva Zip, which is making loans to business owners online using your network, so it's generally your family and friends, and then a worldwide network in support of your business, and it's a zero interest loan repaid, and it's incremental, so you start small and grow. So that's another financing option. As Kristen said, we were designated as a Women's Business Center this October. And Marcia Bailey, who was referenced earlier, she's been a Women's Business Center forever and is also president of the Association of Women Business Centers. And how I've known her is we did a lot of work. Microenterprises' roots were also in the women's movement. So even 25 years ago, when we were first looking at, does a small loan make a big difference or not? Can that work in Bangladesh? Can that work in California? We were, that was a time when So I always think about that when I think about this. When is entrepreneurship a part of the movement? Well, it always is. It always is. We come back in new forms. And that's when I first met Marcia. But these centers exist all across the country. They come out of the federal U.S. Small Business Administration's Office of Women's Business Ownership. So when you're designated as a center, it's because you're already serving women and you have a plan to provide more services in a region that's isn't covered. And obviously, Sacramento was claiming they were covering us, but you know how that works. So when you become a women's business center, you also become, you have access to a lot of the support of the Small Business Administration. So one of the things that can come to your region more, you already have a lot of SBA resources active. Generally, they're around financing, but now there'll be even more of a network of disaster recovery loans, a lot of their training resources, and obviously the Women's Business Center funding is for training and consulting for startup businesses. So this does mean new resources for Shasta County. We're based in Siskiyou, so Mount Shasta is now a headquarters and serving the 4 counties, Shasta, Siskiyou, Trinity, and Humboldt County. We crossed an SBA line. We'll be providing individual business consulting that's free and confidential, and that will happen in person, on phone, on Skype, in a lot of different formats. We'll be providing entrepreneurial training classes on things like building a business and personal financial awareness, webinars, workshops, and seminars on leadership, financial management, business growth, online marketing. Some of those will happen in Redding and in Shasta County, and some of those will happen obviously online through webinars. And now also we're hoping to grow the network, so you're also coming up to Siskiyou County, Mount Shasta every once in a while. We'll also be offering a systematic process for helping you get loan ready with readiness consultations, referrals, and loan advocacy to the appropriate financing entity. In your behind your program today, I've included a flyer for one of our long-standing classes that we've taught up in Siskiyou County for 15 years that's launched over 800 businesses, called It's Your Business. We're changing the format. We're going to have it be 4 Saturdays in Redding all day with a lunch break. And it's a training class that's really fun because you get to be with other people who have dreams and they're thinking about them out loud. We're doing lots of looking at market research and the potential for your business idea, business planning. You could leave that class with a business plan almost ready for a loan request if you wanted, certainly with testing whether your market was feasible or not, and getting more information and more awareness. We had lots of references with earlier speakers about, well, I didn't really do that when I started, but now I see how helpful that is, or most people don't start it, and you often don't know what you don't know. So these classes are a wonderful, supportive, fun place to get to meet new people, make new customers, and also to work through your business ideas. It's starting April 18th. We don't have a location yet, and after the Record Searchlight article came out, we already had 5 people register, so we're excited about that. And feel free to come up and talk to me afterwards if this seems of interest to you, or to call us on the phone and find out if it might work for you. One element of what's going to help, I mean, one of the reasons I was pleased to be able to be here today was you're a captive audience for people who are interested in entrepreneurship. And the Women's Business Center wants to be, one of our keys to success is going to be building partnerships and building on existing efforts. So we don't want to come in with something that's already here. We want to add to it. And I want to ask you, as the Women's Business Center Director, to tell me how we can build on your clients' needs for entrepreneurship training, for development, for particular kinds of access. If you're interested in the center's work, you have signed in and given your email and I've asked to be able to use that email and send you an invitation to join our email list to see what's going on. And if you don't want that, please come up and let me know. I have my business cards on the table, or you can tell me personally. Another key to success will be engaging our city council member over there, and our and the county and other practitioners in how to expand any current effort in order to support women entrepreneurs, right on down into kindergarten, certainly in high school, and on those career pathways, and out in our communities, in our business community. So with that, I'd like to close with a quote, but Faye already said it, so it's okay. I'm going to say it anyway because it means that we're in sync, and it's so clear about that in this discussion how we're all aligning with what is the purpose, how can entrepreneurship be successful for us as women. And it's from Debbie Fields. So we have lots of tech guys that hung out in garages, and then we got this woman that was in the kitchen baking, and then she became a big success. What I wanted was to be allowed to do the thing in the world that I did best, which I believed then and believe now is the greatest privilege there is. When I did that, success found me. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. I'm really excited about how many people we have here today, and I apologize for not having enough chairs. So maybe we should do something about that. Kim. All right. Well, I want to remind you that if you'll turn in your questions on the cards, we'll raise your hand and we'll pick them up and bring them up here, and we'll read them out. I also want to remind you that there's a questionnaire and evaluation form, one on one side, the evaluation is on the back, to fill out so that we can, get a better idea about what some of the gaps are in resources. So if you'll remember to fill out the questionnaire and the evaluation, and we'll collect those, and we're going to give the information to Hope here and Nancy and Working Strategies for Women, because we want to grow our opportunities, and this is, we feel like, a great way to do that. And now we're going to do the question and answer, and then Michelle's going to finish with talking about a little more about the Women's Fund. Okay, here's our questions. Our first question is, also I want to remind you that if you want to stay after, I'm sure our guests will be staying a little bit afterwards too, so you'll have a chance to meet them and ask more questions. The question is, if capital is not really an issue, would it be better to buy a building or lease a building to start your new business? If capital is not really an issue, can one of you answer that question? And the microphone's right there.
Well, I did kind of... Is that on? Can you hear me? Okay, so I did kind of refer to that, didn't I? So I really hate to see businesses struggle and not have longevity. So I'm a little bit more of lease until you build your customer base, and make sure that what you have, unless you have another plan for that building, should the business need to morph or change or pivot, unless you have another purpose or another way to sustain that shift. I always kind of advise to go small first, test the market, see what happens.
I would echo that for sure. And working capital when you're starting up is always more expensive than you ever planned, so why not put the money there to find that customer base? Accountants and lawyers love the buildings. It's a tangible asset. It's easy to understand. It makes sense on the tax returns, especially if you have extra money out there to spend. There are reasons to make investments like that sometimes, if that's what the question was alluding to. But know that you're not making those in the interest of your startup business. You're making those for other reasons. So again, put your money in your working capital till you figured out what you got.
Thank you. Next we have, where can women obtain grant money? Who can we contact? Also, if you look on the back of your handouts, the resource guide, there are some there is some contact information, and Nancy's going to answer the question, and thank you.
I'm never exactly sure how this goes over in a group, but we say almost every day in our office, there aren't really any grants for businesses. And then there's always the exception. The city of Mount Shasta has community development block grant funds. They decide they want to give them away instead of lend them. So then there's this short-term little grant program. But generally, there's not a grant to start your business unless you're in defense industry, research and development of certain tech products. There's different, and then those grants actually look more like investments. Now sometimes, and I think the Women's Fund borders, they don't give money directly to a startup business. They haven't suggested that yet. But you know, sometimes you can find somebody who's interested in what you're doing or the mission of what you're doing, and you can find an opportunity for a grant. It's really a better use of your time to do a cash flow projection and to think about where the savings and the family support and the loan that you might get or maybe not get, what those needs are to start your business than to look for that grant. All that said, I'm sure there's people in the room who are that exception, because every once in a while there is one.
Okay, next question is, what are the best research sources to find out, and there's like 3 different topics: highest dollar market for manufacturing, highest volume of purchases, demographics for marketing, etc. Data to help, well, I can't read the last part. So I guess what we're looking for is, what are the best resources available? And Faye's going to answer.
Well, right now I think it's a good time to get into business, and there's so many things online that you can do for free. And I use all like different online tools and to find out informations like that, and it's kind of free, so I tap into that.
Can you read?
Oh, what are the best resources? I think
The
is
best
what
resources for statistics and
all kinds of
market research. You know who, when I have entrepreneurs that come see me, a lot of them have done some preliminary work through the SBDC. I think that they really have some specific resources. Do you want to talk? Do you have those that you talk?
The one you might be referring to is a partnership with the Small Business Development Center and the Center for Economic Development, and they do something called economic gardening, which helps you do some of that research. It works better in more urban areas, certainly, than Siskiyou County, about where to locate your business, where the demographics might be best suited. There's also publications. When I first started this job 18 years ago, you got the very big paper book this big at the library where you were finding out how many people of disposable income of $50,000 or more live within 200 miles. And so there are some of those resources, and they're online. And if you'd like to know more specifically what they are, please come up and I'll email you some of the links. I always like to say, when people ask, like, where are the best statistics for market research, that it's also really good to start asking anybody that you know or that you might think might like your product, because that's really significant market research. You can build an idea and sort of start to get a notion of volume, but that customer satisfaction piece, if you can hear directly from somebody that might buy from you tomorrow, that's worth $1 million.
Thank you, Kim Niemer. City of Reading. We have
Kristen?
2 more questions we're going to answer. Oh,
Sorry.
sorry. Oh.
I'm actually going to jump back a question, if that's okay. I know I'm kind of crazy to the grants. I just didn't want them to be discouraged. I actually have had a grant, but people aren't just going to throw money at you when you first come up with an idea for a business and say, oh yeah, go for it. They want to know that you're going to succeed. So the grant that I did get was a $5,000 marketing grant. It wasn't to fund any equipment that I needed for my business. It's to fund the stuff that is an addition to my business, because they want to see me succeed, but they also want to see me doing the work myself. I heard a quote from Chris Rock once that said, you know, people didn't pull over when they saw me waving my arms or saying I need help. They pulled over when they saw me actually trying to change my tire. That people are more willing to help you when they see you taking the action to help yourself. So that's, don't think that the grants aren't available. They are available, but most of the time you're going to hear from them through the connections. I heard it through the SBDC. I went there with a need, and they said, hey, there's a grant that could help you. So don't be discouraged. They're out there, but don't rely on them as well.
Thank you. This question is, where will the Women's Business Center be located? And will there be an online community? Nancy.
Great question. So, headquartered in Mount Shasta. When you're in Siskiyou County, you're always kind of proud of that because usually things are headquartered in Reading, and we have to create a day visit to come down. So our offices are across from Tri-Counties Bank on Chestnut Street in Mount Shasta, and we have a computer lab there, and we have our counselors currently based there. We are intending to build an online hub community. Anybody that's interested in participating or has participated in any of our classes or workshops or consulting would be invited to be part of this online hub. We're still in the process of developing that, so it's not functional yet. Just to give you an idea of, it's great that we got designated as a Women's Business Center. It's great that you had your event on January 22nd, but it wasn't until January 16th that I got an approved budget. So. And that's more than 3 months after we got the designation. So, so what was the question? Oh, yeah.
Where are you going to be located?
The Women's Business Center model is that for every dollar that the feds want to give you, you have to raise 50 cents in your community. So on some level, we're hoping that, and this is a 5-year designation, if all goes well, that can be extended. And so we're looking for partners that maybe have resources that then could help us open maybe an office here. I can't promise that yet, but we're looking at how could we partner with agencies and be present inside of agencies that are also serving entrepreneurs, or opening up another office because Shasta County came up with $50,000 to match. That is a possibility if there's anybody out there. So at this time, though, the headquarters is in Mount Shasta, and we're doing things remotely, and we're bringing services to your community at this time.
So please be sure and fill out the questionnaire that indicates your interest, and she will contact you. Also, the last question we have is, how can you prepare for tax deductions when you work out of your home? Is there a training for the aspect of running a cottage industry? Nancy.
Yes, and JEDI offers a session in November called Tax Planning for the Small Business. There are deductions you can take for being home-based, of course, and there's lots of planning that you can do. We run a tax preparation site also, and we're really busy. We're beginning that tax season right now through the end of April, and then again in October for all of you who file extensions. And we can either help with that question for your specific needs by counseling, and we also have this workshop that always comes around in November.
Very good.
Anybody else have the home base?
Get help with taxes. That's the only thing I'm going to say about that. Just to close, I'd like to say a quote that I heard this morning when I was listening to an audiobook. I heard, I don't know who said it, but it really hit me, and it was perfect for this forum, is a risk is just a decision that you make without being informed. When you get out of bed, you're taking a risk, but you're informed because you've done it so many times that you know you might make it through. So given what she was saying about, jumping into a business and, getting the place before, the cart before the horse, really put the time in to be informed. That's just the key. Really put in the effort to do the research, get connected, make the connections before, and bounce ideas off of people. I cannot even tell you how successful my business has become because I have a network of people who aren't necessarily business owners. They might be salespeople. I might have a sales pitch that I need some information on. But don't be afraid to talk to people and tell people your ideas, because I have gotten remarkable ideas from other people, and I'm just astounded. And then I get to take credit for it because I get to implement them. So, but they also get to take part in my business, and they see the fruit in that, and that gives them passion and joy as well. So,
Thank you, Anna.
You're welcome.
Very nice. Let's give our panelists a round of applause. Very nice presentation. And I want to give a shout out to Sue Ralston, who chaired this forum committee, and her committee who did the research and organization. Very nice. Thank you, Sue. So you've heard a little bit about the Women's Fund, and you participated in our forum. And I just want to call out to you that if you want to be part of something bigger than just your single donation to a favorite charity, if you want to see a real significant impact on local issues that affect women and their families, please join our ranks. We have our membership committee over here as you're exiting. They'd be delighted to give you some more information and talk to you about what it means to be a Women's Fund member. You can be a little bit involved, and that just means writing a check, or you can be very involved like we are. We have a new members information night coming up in February, I think. February 3rd. It's a really fun, casual get-together. That's usually a small group of women, and people love them. So anyhow, talk to my friends over there. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate your support, and look forward to our next forum.